today I'm with the lovely Kat, who's my current DM for my campaign that I am in, and does a lot of homebrewing and other amazing things. So Kat's gonna do a lot of the sharing and teaching today because I have only DM'd once and it went. So Kat is in charge. Kat, you want to introduce yourself and promote anything?
Hi. I'm Kat. Only thing I really got is my TikTok, which is at Cat Harp. I will throw it in the chat if I have the ability to.
Okay, Kat, do you want to take it away and talk about what even DMing is?
So DMing or dungeon mastering or game mastering, however you want to put it, is pretty much you somehow have some control of the ship that you are on with your friends in this crazy adventure you want to tell. Sometimes it's you create a world for them to be in. Sometimes there's pre-made campaign settings. One example of a pre-made campaign setting I'm thinking of is Curse of Strahd or Explorer's Guide to Wildmount from Critical Role. Those are already made. There's already NPCs, there's already cities, there's already a lot of lore and information about them created. Whereas homebrewing, which is my personal favorite and my little baby that Jules has had or Birdie has had the exciting pleasure to run around in of my personal world called Zatrasis. It's a very this is just one of 3 maps that I have. So this is the equator, this is the north, and then the other one is the south.
And you made all these maps, correct? Yourself?
Yeah. I made these maps. This was just, I think, 3 or 4 days just sitting down in front of a computer thinking about where to put everything, what to do, how to. I just came up with things, and then countries came after that. Countries like Skylost. As the players play, I also do roles for the world and see what's going on. So that's why this place is falling apart and collapsing into complete, utter chaos, because... So, I mean, it's just... You just do whatever you want to have fun with your friends, and you get to make up a story as you go along. But DMing is not one-sided. It is 2-sided, 3-sided, 4-sided. How many other players you have. So with the party I have right now, there's 5 of us, Birdie being one of them. Between the 6 of us, we all have this nice collaborative storytelling together, where they gave me such great backstories and such interesting narrative plots that they do. I might have I think in the last session, I just had a fireworks stand, and I was like, they could find it, they couldn't find it, maybe they will. They found it. And they just used fireworks to set a forest fire.
Okay, so Kat, when DMing, where would you suggest starting? Whether you want to do homebrew or a pre-made campaign, what do you think the first step is to figuring out how to DM?
First step I would recommend is jump in. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it, which sounds really counterproductive, but once you start doing it, you actually start picking up on things oh, I like how to do this. I found out when I first started, I was combat heavy. I was doing combat every other session consistently. And by the end I figured out that's not what I like to do. I like to do
I don't want to do it.
Long narrative threads where you could go 3-4 sessions without even drawing your sword or drawing a bow, or casting many spells, defensively or offensively. But I figured later on that I like long threads, which I say jump in first. You can start, and once you jump in, you don't have to DM a homebrewed thing right away. I did that, and there were so many holes and just pitfalls everywhere. So maybe start with a pre-made campaign. This is a really good book. This has all the fun monsters I play around with and more. Curse of Strahd is a very, very difficult one to run. Trying to think of some other
feel
good
like
campaign modules.
Hear a lot of people starting with Curse of Strahd, and if that's a hard one, Beholder is our favorite. The reason I pulled up this book is if you're just gonna jump in at one of the good places I would say to start, it's like looking at monsters and looking at things that you might want in your world. Which the Volo's Guide to Monsters has a lot of those things.
Beholders, they're so cute and cuddly in my opinion. I love them.
The Beholders, like it gives you maps. Yeah, we love Beholders. Beholders definitely did almost kill our cleric in our campaign.
1 hit point, baby. 1 hit point.
So there's a lot of like good resources in this specific guide, but if you cannot afford one of these guides or don't have access to them and you're homebrewing, Pinterest is another really great resource. And I literally just searched D&D homebrew, and this like stuff came up.
Yeah, and that's the thing with homebrewing is anything and everything is possible. If you can dream it, you can make it. If one of your players wants to do something crazy and out of the box before the campaign even starts, you can sit there and you can do it. I think Jules and we had, was it before we started, a conversation about the town and what happened?
Yes. Yeah.
I actually had to create a spell for that exact purpose, so that spell only exists in my world. But I had to homebrew it to make it fit narratively, and it was such a fun time messing around with that spell.
And then you create, I know you have this, which helps create specific spells that magic items that you send to us, correct?
Yeah, so this is cool. You can change up the style, the font. It's a limited thing, but it's really cool to have. You just type in a title, you can give it a type, a rarity, how much it costs if you need to attune to it, and then like a quick description, and you can actually add a photo into it. So I think one thing we have is called the cat flute. It actually it's a photo of a cat with a flute is what I put it in, but it pretty much causes cats to be attracted to the player and have them be under the spell animal friendship for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's really fun because you can send these back and forth with your players and you all have it. So
are there any here, the Dungeon Master's Guide. So this is what D&D says that you have to use to...
This is from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
This is
an official guidebook.
I will admit, as a DM, I have not read through this in its entirety. I got about 3 chapters in before I said, nope, I don't like this system, and I chucked it out the window. If anything, out of the DM's guide, you want to start with homebrewing, I just recommend like chapter 1 and chapter 2, which is a world of your own and creating a multiverse. Multiverse you can put in much later, but chapter 1 is like, what do you want your world to look like? Gods, mapping, how to like settlements, language systems, magic systems, campaign settings, play style, what do you want to do? And it's a good resource to have. I think but this is not just a comprehensive list of everything you can put in. I've homebrewed a deity that is very important in my world.
Very close.
And then, there's different magic systems and religious systems like dualisms in here, animisms in here. Mapping your campaign. This is where that one website we had up, Arnet.
This one?
Yes. This Ignite, which is, so if you see, there's so many different things you can use. There's other maps people have already had that they published publicly that you can look at. You can see what they did, which is really cool. And then go to My Maps and you can create a map. Now there is Pro where you can pay a little bit more money and you get a lot more stamps and stuff. but I find that you really don't need that if you just want to start a simple map. And where I started was all the way at the bottom with Fantasy World free, and you could select what you wanted. You can play around with colors, you can play around with anything, and then I did landscape, but then at this point you have this ocean, and you can play around. This is how I created. You can change the size of your pen to make it really small.
You can make it heart-shaped.
You can make anything and everything in this which is so much fun for me because I get to draw a little bit more and have fun with it. And then there's on the side there's this little there's a brush tool. You can change your brush sizes, and then the next tool, colors too. You have all these cool things. You can put mountains, and it will just give you a mountain range, and then you can go to the open catalog, and it gives you all these cool things. Now, anything with a star you have to pay with Pro, but there is so much stuff you can put in here. This is how I kind of started. I kind of started with having a full world built out, and then religious systems and social systems after that.
Okay, what is Dungeon Scroll? What do you use this for?
So I use this when I generally use like Pinterest or Kickstarters to find cool maps for you guys for when I play. But once in a while there's some sort of campaign, like some sort of battle setting that does not fit anything I see. So I will actually make one. And this is much more of like the old school hashing and very straight and narrow maps. But it's really fun to play around with. So you can have it in black and white, you can add doors, you can add stairs, you can add almost anything. You can make it into ships,
we
castle.
all know how great I am at drawing.
So it's kind of the same thing. So this is fun to make your own maps. If you go down on that sidebar on the left, there's things like stair tools, mirror tool, a door tool, which I really like to play around with.
Okay, so all of these then go into, wait, I should show everyone, our Roll20.
Yeah, so your Roll20, I think is one of the best things. I've barely ever used actual physical dungeon, like, maps. Even when I played in-game with people, we always used,
This is the last fight we just had. Yeah, so when you're in Roll20, Kat, as a DM, how do you use Roll20? Because I think Roll20 is really confusing to me, but lots of people like to use it for DMing.
Yeah. Well, the main thing is you're on it looks like a player version. So on the left-hand side, there's actually more stuff for DMs.
Wow.
Yeah, so, no, you're on it. So now if you go up to the second one, there's map and background, object, and tokens, and then finally GM, info overlayer, which is I hide stuff on that layer. So if there's a monster or an encounter that they don't see yet, I leave it on that layer, and then once they see it, I can bring it up to the token layer and they can see it. So only the GM can see that layer. Another one is if you go down, it looks like a cloud. This is your fog of war, which just hides everything and blacks out their screen, where the rest you can just hide stuff from them. And then if you go back to the cloud, you go to the back to the cloud one,
yeah,
and you click on it.
Okay.
It will show reveal areas. You click on that. That's weird.
Oh wait, I have to highlight it. Never mind. I'm an idiot.
So this is the DM. So this is the GM's version, what they see, but the players, everything is blacked out except what is unhighlighted. So they would only be able to see those few squares that are shown. And that's one thing you have to be prepared for with being a DM is Your players will derail whatever you have planned, no matter if you're like, there's only one option, this is how it's gonna be, they have to, like, I knew they were like, we have to go through this specific entrance. I'm like, cool, there is a dragon in front of it. Didn't expect them to throw someone under the bus.
I feel like a lot of
that.
DMing is improv, because, and I know that's something that some people have a lot of problem with is like they want to be rigid in what they do, and I think that in campaigns where people really enjoy playing, there's flexibility from the DM in the way the story is told, because it is collaborative, you know.
It is. I've actually had the experience of having a DM who is no nonsense, rule lawyers. Everything had to be by the book, and it just, I didn't want to keep playing.
Yeah.
I didn't.
What rules do you suggest people, besides, okay, so you said like the gods in the first chapter.
Yeah.
Do you think like money system should stay the same?
Money system absolutely should stay the same. I think money system should be standardized. It's basic 10, so 1 copper equals, no, 10 copper equals silver, 10 silver equal gold, and then 10 gold equal 1 platinum. I mean, that's pretty much basic across all games. That's how I've seen it go down.
Kat, I have a question. How do you make your NPC characters? Because I feel like that's something that's really difficult for people to come up with, like good NPCs.
I think NPCs is one of the hardest part. Most NPCs I don't have actual character sheets for. Like, I don't have full on, like, this is Griff, and then I have Kiyoshi behind him. But, like, I don't have full on sheets. I just play, I would think about what kind of situation would be here, and then kind of play off that. So, I'm thinking, when I first introduced Jerome, who is the NPC, the uncle of one of the characters, I knew how the family would react, and I created a character based off that. Shopkeeps, you can have a kind of a generic shopkeep across all your cities, and then once in a while you can add a twist in, like, oh, I think this person was more likely to trade than actually want gold, or this person is only wanting gold and not trading. So,
what is this resource, the medieval fantasy city generator?
Someone on TikTok recommended this to me, and I have used it ever since, and it is one of my favorite things. So if you go up to the little thing at the top called menu, and you click new city, it will just give you a new city every time.
Wow! That's so cool!
And it will give you, and then if you click on menu again and you click on style at the very bottom, it will tell you landmarks you want, color scheme. I mean, it will just, like, you can play around with it. And then if you click on generate is the best tool of them all. So you go up to menu and you click on generate. You can add in all of the things. You can press on size. You can change the size from small, medium, large city, a small city. This is what you have up is a tiny city. But then if you press medium, it gets larger. And then you can click these things on the inside. So if you take off random on features, you can add walls, you can add a river, you can add a coast, greenland, farmland, shanty towns, and then you just click rebuild.
And then it does it for you.
This is one of my favorite tools. I'm a big person who just love maps.
I know, so this is how you calculate how much treasures are, correct? Or like different, like...
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes. Because, like, I have homebrewed items. There are some great places you can find just, like, a list of homebrewed, like, magical items or magic weapons or magic stuff in general online that I love what Wizards of the Coast has put out specifically for magical items, but I don't think it's enough. So I keep adding stuff. So I mean, you can go to the treasure and you can be like, this is a great generator. It does a lot. You can do downtime, spell books, items, NPCs. I can do all these different things like level 1, level all the way up to level 20, and you can like get more specific. I love the treasure table the best because I can put in like a CR rating of say 11. And then and then you can be like, it's a single person you find the treasure on, or it's a giant treasure hoard. And that takes a little bit of time when you get a treasure hoard, but it's like a lot of gold, a lot of furs, dust of disappearance, potions of greater healing, a potion of growth. And you can just mess around with it, and it's so much fun. I love this website. It gives you so much information, and then they have magic shop generators, which if I'm in a pinch and I just need some magical items, I can be like, okay, they're in a large city. They are going to, say, a trader. And it will give me like the location. It will give me a description of the shop, and it will give me information about the shopkeep. And then it will give me about 8 or 9 different magical items. That's one thing when I started DMing, it was like my brain could not physically keep up with like having to roll like you're in a big city, so you need to roll like 12 times on like on the tables in the books. I'm like, no, I just want a generator. I just want to have everything down. And then from there, I'll just roll maybe 2 or 3 times on some other tables, on some homebrewed tables I have, and just add in some fun stuff.
How do you
That's kind of where
handle,
I've kind of hit
weight in your game? Because I feel like that was a big, when I was doing my how to make a character, one of the big things that came up was like, how do you know how much you can carry? How do you handle that in like your campaigns? Do you care about it at all? We have a bag of holding now, so it doesn't matter. But
you guys have a bag of holding, and I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, like certain things I make you keep track of, like gold, not really, unless you guys find like a giant like dragon hoard of gold. It's like you're maybe like 3,000 pounds of gold. You guys can't take all that gold. Like, figure out how much you're actually going to take versus if you guys have 20 arrows, I'm not going to make you keep track of how many arrows you're carrying. Some DMs make you do that. Some DMs don't. I'm just like, you guys can easily make arrows wherever you are. So no big deal to that.
I know we also have like established rules in our campaign where like Ellie and I pray every morning, and that's like how we're resetting our like spell slots. But we don't always tell Kat that we're doing that. It's just like established that we do that.
Yeah, it's kind of established. Like one thing that we have established is we call them RQ checks or Raven Queen checks, where it's just once in a while, like Nissa is always kind of clocking, trying to see if there's a raven around, and that's just how she communicates with the Raven Queen, is if there's a raven. So sometimes I'll make her actually roll for it, and sometimes if I know that there's no raven around, I'm just never gonna make you roll. Sometimes there's ravens around, and I'll just say you notice them. So it kind of just depends.
At the end of the day, there are no rules for DMing. Do it how you want. Make your world, make your story, and anyone who tells it you're wrong, you just kind of looking out my world.
I mean, that is actually like basics of DMing, is make whatever you want. Now, one thing as a DM I highly recommend is don't steamroll your players. Always give them options, because even then, an option that like you do place in front of them, if there is one solution, you're gonna have they're gonna have different ways of solving that problem. But I never like to be like, you guys have to go here by this date on blah blah blah, because I just think that's just, I've had DMs that like never really let us branch out.
I feel like too, one of my favorite campaigns, right? We were fighting this like space eater. It was literally eating all of the space around it, and my character turns out, because my character, this was one of my first campaigns, so like when you're first creating your characters, the trope is that you always give them amnesia, so you don't actually have to think of a backstory, and I did that because I was like, I do not want to think of a backstory. So I fell into the trope. Um, but so yeah, so one of my first campaigns, but the backstory that my DM had come up with was that I came from the Space Eater because my character was a banshee. So my actual body had been eaten by the Space Eater, so it was coming back to like consume my character. And his plan was to make it so that my character like became the Space Eater, and I, as a player, was like, I'm gonna fight against the Space Eater consuming me. And there's like this whole epic like battle sequence. I don't really remember exactly the details of it, but I ended up taking over the Space Eater who was trying to take over me. Like I reversed it, and then that's how we won. It was so cool. And he could have railroaded me because he had come up with this backstory, right? He could have railroaded me into having to do what he wanted the outcome to be, but no, it ended up being really, really cool because he didn't do that. So, yeah, just like fun shit like that.
That is amazing. I mean, I've had people derail campaigns and be like, nah, we just want to go hang out in the trees for a couple weeks. I'm like, you don't want to go fight the army? No? Okay, fine. That's fine. No. The army's just gonna go do what it was gonna do, but...
I will say too, for new DMs, if you're looking for ideas on like how to DM and how to build your world or like mechanics for gameplay, podcasts are really good to get ideas from. Whether that's like the big ones like Critical Roles or like smaller D&D podcasts, because the way they're doing it is really narrative based because you're listening to it. So if that's what you like, you can learn the mechanics that way too. So if you ever want to DM, I would suggest checking out podcasts to see what kind of play styles you like.
One-shots are great to also listen to or watch. I know that there was this big, I think it was for Extra Life a couple of days ago. I can't remember. It was put on by Wizards of the Coast, and they had like big celebrities play. I think in one game they had Jack Black playing alongside Reggie Watt from, they just played together for like an hour and a half, and they brought in like 10 different DMs, and they brought in like 30 different players, and it was just a whole bunch of different people playing one-shots, but everybody's DM style was completely different. It was fun. It's just great to watch.
Yeah. The last resource that I wanted to give was actually given to me by one of the other players / DMs in Cat's group that I play with, and it's Ground Yourself. The ground itself. I can read, I promise. And it's a one-session like storytelling game. And this like teaches you how to play it. I'll throw it in chat. But if you want practice, like doing DM stuff, these type of games can be really helpful for that, where it's like a narrative-based collective storytelling game. I know these are also on Kickstarter a lot, so if you're ever looking for new homebrew ideas for things, check out Kickstarter because people make them all the time. And you can get free everywhere books and stuff. Yeah. So yeah. Any last questions, concerns, topics of interest, emotional outbursts, stories of your D&D campaigns? Because I think we both love to hear those.
I will say, Jules and I we love trading stories about stuff, so.
Yeah. We love it a lot. I think in the next series of doing D&D, I was thinking of maybe doing a how to do character voices based like workshop. It would be probably another mini stream, because my biggest thing about D&D is that everyone, no matter of your like how your brain functions or how your body functions, should be able to play it, and we need to make it accessible for all people. And so that's why I wanted to do this like series on D&D. All right, y'all. Okay, we're actually going to end here because otherwise I could keep talking about D&D all day. Again, you're always welcome to chat with us in the Discord about it. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. It was super fun doing this. Thanks again, Kat. Goodbye.